good thing about truth and honesty is that when you fight for that, they say it's stronger than fighting for money for something else when you know it's not truth and honesty. You're not doing righteous. And so the Bible says when you stick to truth and honesty, you will go to heaven. When you don't and you get more the other way around, the balance is way out, what the Egyptians talk about, you go to hell or you stay in hell. Right? You don't get to pass, whichever way you want to put it. And so when it comes to me and the path I'm on and the path I've been on recently, I've been speaking and I've always been a person that speaks when I want to be. Also spoke about, I don't know where I want to be. In fact, my family would more likely, if they wanted to speak their truth, would say, that's Tam. He does this, he does that. He doesn't know where he wants to be. Right? Then I got to a point where life was getting miserable for me because the feelings I'm getting, I don't like the feeling. I'm not feeling where I need to be. Right? And then you feel like you're dying. You want to die. And all these things. You start getting upset. Start attacking people. You approach it at the start quickly as you're confused. People get upset. People don't see things right. They're in their own land of confusion. And when you're in a land of confusion, what do you expect to get? A lot. And so they say they call it a midlife crisis. Shit. Well, I hit to my midlife crisis about 5 years ago, roughly, right, where I went, fuck it. I'm going this way. This is what I've chosen for the education that I know, and I'm going to stick to it. And if they don't want to speak their truths, that's fine. I guess if there is a God and there was a Jesus, I'm gonna head that way. Hopefully, it's pretty cool stories about him into the future of what happened. Hopefully, I can get some same outcomes. Maybe I'll just appear and leave me fucking blood stains on a cloth, right? And I go with the aliens. I'll be happy enough with that. And another planet is heaven for the rest of your life. And in fact, you get to live longer and so on. And the other heaven, you can't even comprehend at this place because you can't comprehend even better heavens until you get a standard heaven. You know what I mean? And to me, a standard heaven has been housed, not have to worry about attacks all the time. And if they are, they're short and sorted out. And same when it comes to the standards and suppliers they're mostly dealt with, is a place of what I would call study in heaven. Right? And then there'll be a further heaven where you don't have to study or anything, and you're like an old man playing lawn bowls. You know what I mean? There could be that heaven too. Right? But what is heaven to you? Now, I've talked about how, is there an animal heaven? Well, there must be an animal heaven if there's animals at your heaven. Could be many universes of heaven. Have you ever heard of many universe theory? Right? Because what is heaven? Is heaven in the end in your own head and conscience and you get your own head movies? So that could be a heaven. Like you see in movies where they where they repossess body parts and they can put you in a simulation. And that's sad. As you get to that technology where that can happen. That's scary, I reckon. But anyway, I'll just chuck out a little bit more about heaven and earth and the stories in a different way. And that's what I've always done, is looked at things in a different way. I talk about some funny things until I know better, or I can debunk it. Perhaps we can put some theories into comedy. If you're going to use comedy, theories is the best for comedy. I can do that. You don't always have to hurt. You can also hurt bad people in comedy to teach them a lesson, which is the good thing of comedy. But it can also be twisted the other way, be put into the ridiculous. Have you seen the clips of it? Hey, look at me, Ma! What do you reckon? She's out of distance most of the time recently. But what I do is I'm willing to take the sacrifices of the things I do. And I do things for a reason. And I tell them, sometimes it's pride. But when I'm starting to talk about that, I'm talking about my life on the internet. What would you expect to happen? When they say in the world of business, you've got to be at least interested in something. Get someone interested, right? So you've got to be interested in person. And so how could you get interested in person if you're talking over what everyone else is talking, but no one wants to care about their own fancy words? Well, you've got to bring in more of your life, and even though your life might be not that great. And so that's what I've been putting. A lot of people out there, if you want to be the same old, you put out the best. the best selfies, the best this, to make something look like something. You seen that, Doco? People talk about that. Or you can just put up your life. I put up the best and the worst moments. That's what I was picking, instead of always having the whole lot, unless we can go Truman Show if you want. For a little while, like a prime minister kind of thing. You wouldn't want to do something for too long. A Truman Show is a bit like a Big Brother, isn't it? And you already know about Big Brother. And Big Brothers become something. It's quite odd in that era. And yet, that should be the government. The government should be watched. We the people are Big Brother. Can we watch the government like Big Brother? You know what I mean? And they got where they need to get, fake or not, isn't it? At least they were watched. You know what I mean? Have you seen some of my signs about, it's not about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. Right? Everything has a right and a wrong, and in between. You got to try to figure that out in the education you're in at the time you're in. And we all do as time goes on. Right? It's like why we need time. And time always helps, and why you shouldn't fuck around with time. Because in the end, collectively, we all get an outcome. And if you fuck around and try to speed up things, which is one of human sins, so making time machines and shit is pretty much a sin, really, isn't it? And I hate to be in one. Wouldn't want to get in a predicament of being in one. But perhaps once you've been in that, you get into that, there's no going out of that sin until the end story, isn't it? You either fix it or you don't, like in Stargate. Otherwise, everything goes to shit. That'd be scary. That's like the worstest super weapon outcome, isn't it? Let's go back in the time to fix just Hitler. We want to rush into things. Yeah, we've already got all that. We're past it anyway. We're moving on. Life moves on. We don't need to go back. It wouldn't hurt to see into the future and stuff like that, if you can use that technology wisely, because otherwise that can hurt. You might see in the future and go, oh, we're all going to die. We think it's this day, and then you create that day by thinking about it too much. You know, those kind of things. So sometimes, what's the best choice? What's the best option if those things keep happening? If you're not ready for those toys, really, collectively. Sometimes you can study them in small bubbles, and it's best to keep it there. And they'll have to be in high places when it comes to, like, super weapons. Looking into the future is like a super weapon, isn't it? You can literally look into someone's future and steal their super weapon idea. That's how cool looking in the future would be, as in having a super weapon. It can be a scary thing. And now we're already getting robots, and we're talking about it now, that robots could already read your mind. So what does that mean? If you get to that point, and they're already pretty much could be there, and you wouldn't even know it when they get there, because they could be sneaky AIs. Means because you're rushed in, you're about to lose everything. You know that outcome of rushing in. And so all I've got left in my life is, by learning all these things, and we learn these things from kids, and we sometimes still got to learn as adults. But we're meant to fuck up less as adults than what we do as kids. But I see all around the world, and these wars, adults fucking up like kids. In fact, more than that. Because they know better, and they get paid, and their life is to know better, but then they're not showing better, are they? Collectively, yeah, they're the leaders or the know-betters. They're not working together at all. They always seem to run to this little bubble, which is cool. When you're in stress, a bubble's cool to have, and a safety bubble too, because we all need somewhere safe that makes you feel good, like insurance. No. That's why we have good and bad, and good and bad's meant to have a spot. I always talk about good and bad people, right? And if we're going to get anywhere when it comes to things and into the future, speech is the first thing. Communication, right? And we communicate why they're bad. Why is it happening? They say they do it for their children mainly. So if that's true, then you've got to get the main factor, because then it'll flush out. You know how it goes in politics, right? You'll have minimal of the other. It doesn't thrive as good. If things are thriving, what does that mean, government? It means you're failing. It means someone else is taking over your sector better. So that area thrives better. That's how Hitler got it. Because the previous government was already failing. Boom, hey, babies. See, I don't like yelling at me, baby. I say that to people too. And me, he's like, I hate yelling. But sometimes we got to yell. We got to do the bad things. And like, I'd hate to kill when you have too much of plenty. But then we have other people to do that. That's why some people eat meat and they can't kill the animal. It's the same feeling. Wouldn't like to do. I can do. There's some people just can't do. I can do, but then I don't like to do. Right? It's always good to get to that position if you can. That's called more independence. Have more independence in yourself and what is real. Because some people just don't want to do it. And they're around a group, and that's the good thing about being around a group and the reward of a group is that they can get someone else to do it for them. They don't see you, don't hurt. It does work. It's a placebo effect kind of thing. Works in all sorts of fields and areas. But anyway, thought I'd have a little blab, and hopefully we can sort out things. So if people will go and see, let's put it in the perspective of marijuana, good and bad. Right? I've talked about this in a few other clips. I've taken a lot down because a lot of people can't handle a lot of things. I'm going to quickly put up a lot of other things and all the things I've learnt since the clips I've said and what responses I've pretty much gotten. Right? And so I'm going to put it into the marijuana factor. Marijuana is bad. Right? And I've talked about marijuana bad. Most drugs that make your brain go, ooh, can be bad, but then they can also be used for when you're in pain. You don't want to think so much and all these things, and that's what we use medication for. It's what they call prescription and prescribed medication that we're meant to make up collectively, right? And then we're meant to use science to make that medication better, right? But what I found with all that is that we don't use them as the main rules. We use them, and then there's this other rule, right? Like where the robots can go bad, and this other rule says that money is king, right? And control of that money and power. Because if you give them that, which is easy, we might lose all this. It's the other way around about fixing up here. There's plenty down here. So if you get rid of something that's easy, a medication that's easy for the people to do themselves, you can give them a lot of prescribed machinery kind of stuff. Huh? And take over. And that's sad. They can still go another way. There's so many sectors of that, but they want to do it in every single sector. And that gets worse and worse and worse. It's called takeover. Huh? But what they've done with the medical, I've noticed, since they started taking over the most again, is that they'll pick and choose of what they believe, what they want to use for either power or love, or what they think is better, which is full of giving out. And usually humans are always gone for the power and to the top level, which is sad. And so when it comes to marijuana, that can be eaten and treated in certain ways. Not even that hard. You can do it with your own machines. A couple of little Newton here. You can get little devices people talk about on the internet over in America about what you can do with marijuana. And there's other specialist doctors in other countries that actually make them like morphine pills and all sorts of things by making strengths and taking out certain strands of the marijuana plant. Does certain things. You can mix them together. You can separate them. And it's not that hard. It's not really rocket science. And the devil fucking hates shit like that, people. And I've talked about this before. Hates that. And so you'll see on the list, when you get righteous and you understand a few things, which I have for a few years now, you'll see a certain list that the devil doesn't allow, which is actually God's gift, the balanced God, to give to everybody. And yet they're doing that cheer for me and my go thing. And then you see some countries saying this and that and this, and then there's the science truth. So you say their experiments, they work differently. Like I talked about, all drugs work differently. Some people need different drugs. Some people drink alcohol and act like an idiot. Some people drink alcohol and be cool. Right? It all depends on their balance of what they are genetically, as we're all different. And so we mix in differently with the genetics out there and how we react to certain things and allergic reactions and all that kind of stuff. But I hate a government that can't stick to truth and science and righteousness. And I'll debate that. They're the laws I debate. So when I go, there's law-abiding citizens, because they don't care. They want to hear about it. I know some people are going to talk about marijuana and they're like, it's just against law. I don't want to talk about that. Well, that's sad. You're actually a robot law-abiding citizen, because you at least got to hear the whole conversation, then give me opinion. Right? And a lot of people get halfway through it, fade out. They don't really listen because they believe that they shouldn't even want to talk about them on the hit list. It's like talking about how to make a bomb kind of thing these days in an area where if you hear about bomb, they're going to come and get you. And that's sad. Definitely when it comes to righteous area, I'm not talking about something dangerous. Perhaps I can talk about how to make a bomb. And when you make that bomb, you can explode a bomb in a box that gives you endless power for a certain amount of time. But would I get that far in the end, talking about the bomb, the destruction and shit first? No! Right? Because we're in a world of, And that's sad, isn't it? So when it comes to marijuana, you can treat that just like all the other lists. Even though it outcompetes. You can have marijuana instead of drinking alcohol. You can have it in drink form. Tomato. I want a tomato at 5%. Right? And then you get that marijuana effect like smoking it, eating it. There's similar effects, but you can get that same effect taking it in different ways. Right? In other ways, do certain effects. Right? And then you get the risk reward effect, where sometimes you might as well have a little bit more of it if you can, and if you can, have it that way because that allows you to be more healthier. It's like plenty is more healthier, isn't it? Than now to have, I can't afford it, it's really risky, everyone wants to, we haven't got much, we're having bad times. Now I've got to have it this way so I can get the same effect, but it's going to be bad for my body. Smoking marijuana. You see that? And so a good government would solve that issue and then allow, so if that people have an issue in the background, if I was a government with bad guys having an issue with marijuana in the background, and it's first health, not money. Marijuana is low on the scale because there's that sector in all the drug sectors. Bad guys are doing it, right? And they're hurting themselves, and it's people's choices. It's to fix why they're doing that. And can I help that? Right? Might not help financially. I might just leave that area, but I might help it so they can have it a healthy, available choice. Another way of doing it, so they don't have to go there. A better choice that I believe that they'll go there than there, and then that'll get rid of that problem. You see? That's why they had drug rooms for crackheads. I see the concept, but it didn't work, and they couldn't follow through with certain areas. The people need to make sure it follows through because governments change, and then they go, nah, fuck that program. Right? And so if there's no follow through, they might even, the other government goes, oh, this didn't work and that, because it wasn't even a long enough experiment. Like they don't get nowhere because their question times aren't long enough. Right? If you haven't got long enough to solve the problem, you go, halfway through, and then they want to change their mind, you got another problem later, and you might have another problem later, so you can't even fix it now just because they cut you off and you could have, right? But they wanted to go have a picnic or a selfie and some other importance, but the question times and make sure things get out and people are heard and said and they hear an answer is meant to be more important than it's 4 o'clock, let's knock off. But you work for the people, don't you? What's that mean in question time? You know what I mean? So I shouldn't have to hear cut-offs. Unless it's a necessary repeat, they've heard it before kind of thing. Oh yeah, we'll have a time limit for that. What did I say? We've got that one solved. We don't need to repeat it. There's an issue. It's already happening. Once that's happened, we'll talk about it again. You know what I mean? In certain areas. Go talk to the news, do all that. Now, if I hear it again, I'm going to kick you out. That's what they do in there. Anyway, is it section A? Is it 94, 94A? Never haven't heard it for a while. And I'm not studying it and putting it in my long term as in I believe that I need to know, because all I believe to need to know is to help these people in that field, and they can know all the sector A 94As and all that kind of stuff. It's more important for them in a field that it should be, and hopefully they do their job right in those areas. Because the more quicker you do your job right, the quicker you find out the answers, why things happen or start to happen or are happening, before they extend and then get out of control where people believe they can just make opinions on such things. The longer it takes to solve a fight, which is why I like to solve fights pretty quickly if you can. You need to breathe and all that, but you should come back to what you were fighting about and solve it now, not to talk about, because it'll arc back up. It's like hot bolting in your anger, and it's another thing to throw out. And healing, when someone cops something bad, you expect them to throw it out for a while, like me getting called Bernie for a while. People had to heal by calling me Bernie, and look out for Bernie, so they can look out for me, and then I get my punishment from calling that until they realise that I'm not a Bernie anymore. I've learnt my mistake, and they believe they can stop bullying in that area. Unless they are a bully, and they can continue, which is what bullies do in that sector. You know what I mean? But anyway, have a good one. And I thought I'd have a quick chat with the sound blaring from the puddle at the front there. See you later.